बोलिएगा स्टार्ट करेंगे. Hello. Good afternoon, friends. This is Yagya, and we are having Vairagya IS platform in collaboration with the Bishala platform. So, in order to provide free and compulsory education to the deprived sections of society and various parts of India, we are taking the sociology series for UPSC aspirants who are appearing in this mains 2022 and upcoming year for UPSC syllabus. Under this, we will look into the various perspective and different parts of the syllabus which are often asked in the UPSC examination. Further, we will look into the paper 1 and paper 2 separately in discrete manner so that we should understand the evolution of sociology, how it turned out to be a discipline, and we will also discuss some of the previous year's questions asked in the UPSC and to decipher the pattern of question trend in the UPSC, we will look into it in the detailed manner. So let us start the sociology for the UPSC. So let us look into the syllabus first, that what is sociology in paper 1 for UPSC. So we see that there are various thinkers and various evolutions which led to period of enlightenment from period to renaissance, and after that emergence of science and sociology in the field of European studies was seen. There were various commentaries and various debate over various thinkers, various methodologies, research methods such as quantitative and qualitative method, variable sampling, and so on and so forth. Then there comes the concept of Marxian theory, in which Karl Marx emerged as a new philosopher for his theory of communism. So, what happened in earlier society? What led to the creation of sociology as a subject to study and as a discipline to study in India and around the world? We will look into step by step. Then we will look into the thinkers. Then comes the part of power, then religion, then institution, how they play in a sociological reality. Then we will look into sociological imagination, then how a sociological researcher and as a part of sociological policy making for various sections of society, how policymakers look into the various sections of society, what needed to be created and which section is depriving and what needs to be done for those section. For example, the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan aims to help the women's empowerment by providing them security as well as clean toilet at the village level. Further, we see that there is Sabla Abhiyan, then Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, to help the women to grow up and go out of their houses, study in school, get empowered education, and become an indispensable part of country's development. Further, we see that the system of value education in terms of various sections of society which are deprived, they are also included in the sociological research. So in this way, we will study sociology in greater detail. Step by step, we will cover the syllabus and we will also discuss the questions that are asked. So let us see a question in UPSC, for example, how the emergence of modernity led to rise of sociology as a subject. So in this question that has been previously asked in the UPSC, we see that how the question framework has created the question in a way that we should look into what is there necessary for the sociological development. So in the period of enlightenment which occurred after Renaissance of 14th century, when there was quest for rational inquiry, there was development of scientific temperament in the Europe, and people were asking about various institutions, why churches are collecting taxes, why there is monarch as a king, there was the rise of democracy. Then certain philosophers came out of the period, such as Rousseau, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, who gave his social contract as a development of democracy over the world. Similarly, this idea was also supported by other thinkers, such as there was John Locke, who gave his concept of freedom to the people of the country and establishment of democratic government. Then comes the concept of Auguste Comte, who emerged out to be father of sociology. Before Auguste Comte, there was Saint Simon, who raised the question for the rise of sociology as a discipline. So this led to development of sociology as a part of researcher and to understand this discipline in a different manner, because there was too much social changes, there was rise in the middle class, there was industrial revolution which led to creation of industrial society, and that society was part of a social sphere which acted toward the development of a discipline in which the relationship with the family, the manager, and the marriages with the social system, including the kind of bonding with the mode of production, was changing in terms of relationship of production, which was studied by Karl Marx. So we see that there were various changes in the European society. There was change in the infrastructure and there is change in the superstructure that led to development of sociology as a subject of research. So under this question, we can answer in a manner that we should first discuss what is modernity, what is modernity in Europe, and how it created a change in the European society. So modernity was visualized as the rise of machine, mechanical temperament, and development in the mindset of people in which they earlier believed in the religion, and after passing of certain interval of time they started believing that religion is not sole body to take decision on the part of people's life. People can take their decision on their will. So the concept of individual will over community arises. So preference to individual will was eroded, after which we saw that there were voices raised for the human rights, and which those rights which are inalienable to the individual, in which individual is free to have his expression, free to have justice, and he has his right to property. Further, he has a right to choose the vote, as right to cast the vote in order to choose a representative of its own. So that is casting vote in terms of voting right. Then second, individual's will to command the social sphere in terms of expression, speech. Then there is liberty, which we also see in the French Revolution. In this way, we see that there were various changes in the European society which led to emergence of modernity, changes in the marital relation, changes with the religious and other institutions of society was also taken part under this sphere. So we will discuss it in detail. So we see that how sociology emerges in Europe first. To understand it, in Europe, so emergence. So there was earlier a dark age in which there was feudals and slaves, and there comes the feudal society, and there was reign of monarch. which we also saw in the French Revolution, that king is the owner of the state. So concept of state emerged, then monarchy led to the development of the rise of social system. So there was French Revolution, then there was American Revolution, then there happened to be Industrial Revolution. So these revolutions create the temperament of scientific thinking and rational inquiry into each and every existing concept of the social system. Then why there is existence of the institutional body of church, why church is able to collect the taxes and having economic power over the people of the society. Further, people started questioning over the view of the king, then why king is having so much authoritarian power and hegemony over the entire French society, why he is willing to have the wars, why he is having control over the money and economy, why the king is taking all the parts of the economic system as a revenue in his pocket. So they started questioning, then concept of democracy emerged in a concept of economy, that is free market, and which was called as the लेसेस फेयर. तो लेसेस फेयर का कंसेप्ट इमर्ज हुआ दोस्तों जब लोगों ने देखा कि कैपिटलिज्म इमर्जेस एज ए पार्ट ऑफ इंडस्ट्रियल सोसाइटी व्हेन देयर वाज अ rise of imperialism and colonialism. So colonialism हमने ब्रिटिश पार्ट ऑफ इंडिया में देखा कि ब्रिटिशर्स इंडिया में क्यों आ रहे थे, बिकॉज they want to suck and exploit the resources of India. India was huge and heavy minerals, rich in the iron ore, rich in the aluminium, bauxite, heavy metals and non-metals. India was rich in coal, copper, and many kind of minerals which were necessary for the industrial growth and development. This led to a sense of rise of industrial capitalist, and those capitalists led to emergence of a societal hemisphere in which there were new middle classes, there were new learned classes who know their rights and how to revolve around the rights to have a vote. So if जहाँ तक voting rights की बात आती है, when there should be democracy, there only will be a voting right. So उसके लिए क्या हुई, मिडिल क्लास इमर्ज हुई फ्रॉम द राइज ऑफ कैपिटलिज्म. कैपिटलिज्म इमर्ज हुई दोस्तों, एंड देयर वाज राइज ऑफ मिडिल क्लास एंड देयर वाज राइज ऑफ राइट्स आफ्टर द knowledge of individual. So individualism arose, then rise of capitalism. So what is capitalism? Capitalism is a phenomena in which people indulge into creation of wealth through the manipulation of market forces and through using the factors of production and mode of production. In the concept of capitalist society, we see that rich classes emerge to be the new class and therefore emergence of new middle class seen in the European society. That led to development of new section of society after the fragmentation from the three states. As we see that in European society, there were three states existing: clergy, nobility, and the commoners. So in the stake of commoners, there were too much poor people, there were peasants, farmers, cobblers, tailors who were working day and night in their farmer field, their small businesses. Despite they were getting nothing in the return, they were having so much of deprivation, poverty, and exclusion from the each and every section of society. Therefore, there leads to the protest against the upper caste of the society. So we see the three sections of the French society during period of French Revolution. which we will study in detail in this series. So there were three sections, friends. First was the clergy, then was the nobility, and the third was the commoners. So commoners were the most suffering class among the three. And what was that? They were all the peasants, farmers, and other deprived sections of society who were struggling for their survival by doing their work day and night. Still, they were bound to pay the heavy taxes, after which they were having very less money in their pocket for the survival of their family. So that was major cause of poverty. Second class emerged to be the nobility, who were having right to all the powerful things such as politicians and leaders and so on. Clergy was the church, and above which was the king or monarch. Okay, so monarch was having sole right over the state. Monarch was a representative of the god himself. So king was called as a representative of god. And what is god? God is supreme, having sole power. So no one can raise question over his authority, over his decision, whatever he has chosen for the country. If he has chosen the country to go for a war, then it is justified that the king wants to go for the war as a divine right. What is that right? That is divine right. एक दैवी अधिकार इसे ईश्वर के तरफ से प्रदान किया गया है कि वो अपने राज्य के प्रति किसी प्रकार का निर्णय लेने में सक्षम है. That was the major challenge, and that was the problem of the society, that if the king is willing to go on the war, then entire society is suffering through the courses of war. पूरे कंट्री को पूरे युद्ध के दरमियान सफर करना पड़ता था if the king is willing to go for a war. And king is able to make the policies for the war. He can make allies, he can make enemies, he can have sea vigilances, he can do anything for his state. So that kind of thing was a totalitarian, that was totally extreme in the nature. Then the concept of democracy emerged as a factor of economy. When the traders have to trade across the countries, they come to Asia, they come to Europe, they come to America, they have to pay heavy taxes to the clergy class, that is churches. तो यहाँ पे बहुत ज्यादा इन्हें टैक्स देना पड़ता था, and after that the traders feel exploited, that suffering to so much of distances. For example, you see Bartholomew Diaz or the Magellan, and there was Vasco da Gama who came to India traveling from Spain and Portugal. There was various navigators. After coming to India, they have to trade it, what they have produced inside their country, and after going back to their country, they have to pay a huge amount of taxes. And that led to dissatisfaction among the trading classes, and which led to rise in the protest following the philosophical pionings of the philosophers who provided their philosophical basis. So many philosophical quotes were there. There was Descartes, who gave his concept of democracy, then concept of thought as a living identity, then what he thinks that he becomes, and whatever he's thinking, that is why he is existing. In the same way, there were another thinker who were able to guide the people to rise for their rights. That was the rights of the individual. So there was a concept of human right that arose after educated elite middle class rises. Then second, the concept of rights for the individual. That means their right to vote, their right to property, right to have speech and assembly, right to have their own institution, right to have their businesses, right to have cooperatives, and right to have justice. That was rose after John Rawls' theory of justice, in which he said that the search for truth is the only process for development. In the same way, we see various kind of philosophers who proved to be an emergent in the industrial society. So capitalism emerged after the imperialistic society. We will see in the next part that capitalism rose in Europe and that gave birth to the modernity. And what it led to? It led to imperialism. And before that, there was rise of capitalism by rise of new industrial class. So we saw that there was industrial revolution in Britain, and we see in the NCRT there was discovery of a spinning jenny, then there was motor engine, diesel engine, and there was factory, which proved to be a heavy and huge production unit for a large class of products available in the society. For example, we see that clothes were manufactured in certain kind of hand woven system during the period when Britishers intruded in India. After some time, we see that the society was having its control by rise of the classes which were industrial in nature. So they created some factories with the help of machines, and there were machines who were weaving the clothes. So cloth industry was mechanized, and that gave a new construct of society, that was a middle class who was industrial in nature, and that industrial middle class have the capacity to rise for their own rights in terms of their individual rights, which were called as the fundamental rights. इन्हीं अधिकारों को बाद में फंडामेंटल राइट्स कह दिया गया. Okay, friends? So we see that this rise includes equality. Why there should be discrimination? There should not be any discrimination in rich and poor, then other sections of society and the working section. Then there should be rights available to each and every class of the society. So new class arose, and new class gave the concept of various rights. Then there was the concept of neoliberalism and rights constituting equality, justice, liberty, which we see were the most important parts of rights in the French Revolution. And therefore, some of the UPSC questions have asked that how the revolution led to the changes in the society and the present form of democracy. So further, we see that in Europe, the quest of scientific knowledge emerged. And now there were scientific researches in terms of geography, that there is earth, earth is round, not a flat body, then concept of ocean and how ocean is having waves, then concept of sun, moon, stars was emerged. Similarly, in the quest of scientific knowledge, the discipline of study of society was emerged. So study of social changes, that is social dynamics, led to rise in the differences in Hegelian dialectic and the Comte's concept of the three states. So Comte gave the concept of three states in which he elaborated that how the three states have been differences in their tendency toward the rising of the sociology as a trend of social paradigm. So there was theological state, there was metaphysical, and there was positivist state. These three states proved to be differences in the human psychic, in which people are tending to have different opinions toward the social underpinnings and social changes. Similarly, there comes the concept of Marx, who states that the changes in infrastructure and superstructure, infrastructure, this is superstructure comprising of infrastructure and base. So when there is changes in modes of production, and what is mode of production? Factors of production plus relationship of production. So when there are factors of production, that is land, labor, and capital, which changes, and that leads to the change of the relations of production. And if the two things are getting changed, then there is change in MOP, that is change in the entire superstructure. So he classified the entire society into two parts, that is proletariat and bourgeois. So these two sections have their differentiation and discrimination on the basis of rights, discrimination on the basis of wealth, and that turned to be a Chicago school of thought, which we will study in the sociological understanding. Further, we see that there come some other philosophers such as Emile Durkheim, who studied sociology as basis of social facts. He studied sociology on the basis of social facts. So what are social facts? That are something which can we touch or we cannot touch, and that has certain scientific evidences. So he termed sociology as a scientific discipline, and that created a stream for researcher in terms of sociological research, that there is infrastructure and there is base, and when there are sociological factors that are changing, that leads to development in the sociological facts. So for Durkheim, crime is a social fact. For Durkheim, religion is a social fact in terms of totem, and for Durkheim, suicide is a social fact that is a part of modern society. These all social facts are part of modern society, in which there is changes visualized in religion, that is rise of industrial society leads to uh, deprivation and discrimination on the basis of religion that were provided through the churches. So people started to diminish the value of churches after the time passes, and that leads to rise in the emergence of sociology as a discipline, and people emerges in the Durkheim study as a part of totem, in which he found that people celebrate something as a part of their social consciousness. That means there is organic solidarity in some kind of traditional society. Then in modern society, we are having mechanical solidarity. So society is comprising of mechanical solidarity, and there is organic solidarity. On the basis of traditional and the modern society. Further, he also discussed four types of suicide, in which there was various changes in the society as the modernity prevails in the system. Further, he classified crimes as a pathological state, and he also gave the concept of division of labor. For also, he establishes the concept of sociology as a scientific discipline and emerges to be a positivist thinker. So, in this way, the discipline of sociology emerges in the Europe and comes to the global sphere. So, I hope that you have liked this video and understand the factors. And further, that there was a Jet Lin who quoted that the society as a most important unit of individual as well as smallest unit. And he also quoted that part of sociology a part of society that leads to continuous dynamical changes that becomes a matter of sociological research, and family, neighborhood, religion, kinship becomes the small unit of sociological research. So in this way we will study the sociology in far detail in coming lectures from the vairagya. So keep on watching and have prepared with your questions and answers. Go thoroughly through the syllabus of UPSC, what it deals in the paper 1 and whatever it deals with the paper 2. Similarly, in the state PCS examination in terms of BPSC, UPPCS, we will discuss many questions in detail so that you can grab the conceptual understanding of sociology in detail. So bear with us, keep watching and make notes time on time. Do ask the question in a comment box. So with that, I end this lecture and I believe you understand the things. So thank you and have a nice day. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.